Can you think of some times when you've had your trust taken advantage of? Right? You were trusting someone else, whether a few different times throughout your life, whether recently, and then you got taken advantage of, or it turned out you couldn't trust them. Because if you haven't, or if you haven't enough, maybe you should consider trusting more people. Now, I know it can sound like the opposite of the direction I'm going with this stuff, but really it's important. And in the same way that occasionally making some small human errors in the work that you're doing can actually be an indicator that you're pushing your limit, that you're working fast, that you're being productive, because errors are a side effect of that productivity, occasionally being taken advantage of, at least in small recoverable ways, and we're not talking super serious violations, obviously, but occasionally in trusting others and finding that maybe you shouldn't have, is a byproduct of trusting enough people, which is critical to success in the world, in game development, in life, and so on. I remember my first time making games remotely. I was like probably 1998, 1999. It was a Bomberman kind of remake with some new power-ups, some new features, totally different graphic style. And this guy in Scandinavia, who I met over the internet, never met in person, he was doing all of the program code and the menus and such. I was taking care of all the 3D art, as well as the sound effects and power-up design, some of the level design. And about 2/3 through that project, he came back to me and said, "Lost the code. Game's over. Can't recover it. Doesn't exist. Sorry." And it's a thing that obviously, like, he had a hardware failure. It's not like he's even to blame, right? He just lost it. Now, still, part of entrusting people would be the idea that, like, well, I'm counting on you, so I'm counting on you to have backups of this thing that you have. And that actually taught me a valuable life lesson, that when other people are entrusting me, it's on me to have backups, so I don't wind up being that guy in the other situation, right? Or from the other side. Or, this is a case where Krister, back at Enjoy GameDev last weekend, we had those videos coming up soon on this weekend. Great talks, but Krister mentioned a few situations where back in his early business experience, he was a contract work person, and lots of people who do contract work have a problem of not being paid by their clients. And you got to follow up on that. You got to try. You got to have the contracts in place, whatever. But at the scale of a lot of small contractors, it becomes more expensive to try to make a lawsuit out of it than it does to just chalk it up to maybe trusted the wrong party sometimes. And so, he'd be working on these projects, and the final payment would never come because they'd tell him, "Krister, we love your work. You did a great job. Nothing wrong with you. But our business is folding. We can't afford to pay you the final payment. We're so sorry. That's our situation." And obviously, they would rather not have their business folding. But once again, it came from trusting others in a way that, at least in his path, and actually in some of my years as contractor too, were still pivotal to forming a foundation of a career independently as a freelancer. And the reason why this comes up today is that through a lot of the things that I provide as Gamketo, my video courses, my ebook, my club, the way people have support on Patreon, lots of things come with like a 30-day refund period. And because it's a digital good, you don't like ship it back. It's not like I sent you some socks, and if you don't like them, you got to send them back to get the refund. It's a digital good. So conceivably, and maybe I'm going to super regret highlighting this fact on a YouTube video, conceivably, anybody who wanted to could pretty easily rip me off. Could click to pay or buy or whatever, get their thing, cancel, request the 30-day refund, and just have it for free. Now, one of the amazing things out of that is that in the years I've been running my online business, how rare that actually happens. How unusual that is. And I hope that that's a side effect of my prices being reasonable. I hope it's a side effect of me genuinely helping enough people that they see the value in it and that they're willing to see it as a worthwhile trade-off. But occasionally it does happen, and it's happened again recently, where somebody will pay for something, get it, instantly cancel, and refund. And not from any sort of complaint of it, but just to simply kind of take advantage. And the unfortunate thing in those situations is I think that sometimes when those things happen, it leaves people the feeling that, like, they've done, like from the business side, or as a game developer, like, you've made a mistake somehow. And I think what you got to realize is, no, the mistake would have been not trusting enough people for that to occasionally happen. That, again, that's a byproduct. It's a small piece of what happens as part of trusting enough people to do good in the world. And the same thing, of course, like that kind of trust, I remember when I had that negative experience of trusting someone overseas, and again, it wasn't even his fault that the trust fell through in that case. But after that happened, I thought, man, I had learned my lesson. One of my battle scars I took away from that was I am never working with people remotely again. And for many years, I held to that because I thought that was the lesson I needed to learn. But sure enough, much of what makes Gamketo Club today possible, we have people all over the world, like 16 different time zones. We've got people scattered throughout every continent besides Antarctica at this point who've been involved on projects. And that's possible from a level of trust in one another that we have. And this is just so essential both for game developers and for independent small businesses, because so many things that small businesses do rely upon an element of trust. Because again, like I mentioned in that earlier case as a contractor, if it came to a court case, it'd be more expensive to have that case than the ultimate yield from it would be anyway. So it winds up being, even if you've got proper contracts and stuff in place, and you should, and membership agreements and all that, at the end of the day, it usually chalk it up to, well, trusted people, didn't work out, but worth it to do it anyway for the times when it does. Because it makes so many more great things in the world possible when we can trust one another, when we can use that as something we can, as a basis of doing business together, of creating games together, of trying to do good in the world. This ties back to this popular old poem called The Paradoxical Commandments, sometimes misattributed to Mother Teresa, but it's actually by Dr. Kent M. Keith. The misattribution comes because Mother Teresa liked this poem so much, she put it on the wall of one of her places in Calcutta, which got mentioned in a biography, so now it gets misattributed to her, but it's by Dr. Kent M. Keith. I'll read it in just a moment. Have to coffee myself first. So this is The Paradoxical Commandments by Dr. Kent M. Keith from 1968. People are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you will win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty and frankness will make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest minds. Think big anyway. People favor underdogs but follow only top dogs. Fight for a few underdogs anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People really need help, but may attack you if you help them. Help people anyway. Give the world the best you have and you'll get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you have anyway. And, I mean, obviously, it's not quite specifically about trust, but there's so much overlap there in terms of the idea of when you entrust people, when you trust others, whether it's customers, whether it's collaborators, whether it's partners, whoever you may be trusting, teachers, family members, you will occasionally have that trust fall through. And I think you got to trust people anyway. That if you don't have that trust occasionally falling through, it's probably a sign you're not trusting people enough. And if and when it does, calibrate that as a positive sign to you. You're putting yourself out there. You're doing the right things. You are trusting people. Keep your head up. Trust some more people, right? Maybe some different ones next time, but keep trusting people. So that's it for the day. I want to thank you for tuning in once again. Have some more videos for y'all soon. Bye for now.